Just a word of warning, episode 20 does deal with some very sensitive issues regarding suicide, and we do encourage all listeners, if they are feeling down or in need of help and support, to contact Samaritans, the support line, or suicidepreventionlifeline.org. There is always someone out there to help listen to you and help you through any difficulties that you may be experiencing. Welcome to episode 20 of Conversation on Eagle Mountain, a podcast about the tribe. I'm your host, Lance, and joining me on the panel today is Liz.
Hello.
Hill.
Hey.
And Sabine.
Hi.
With episode notes done by Matt, Catha, and myself.
Selena, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have...
Please, hear me out. I know about your loyalty to Trudy, but I also know that kiss meant something. Bray, I think I'm in love with you.
Don't say that.
Why not? It's true. That's why you have to make up your mind. Choose. Me or Trudy. It can't go on like this. I have to know, Bray. I have to know.
So episode 20, the screenplay was done by James Wiley. It was directed by John Reed, and the episode synopsis will be read out by Liz.
As the Mallrats prepare for the impending attack on the mall by the Locos, Bray sets Ebony straight with the truth about Zoot's mysterious disappearance and comes to an agreement with the Locos' new leader. Meanwhile, Zandra learns of Lex's indiscretions that led to Ebony's escape and refuses to forgive him. Matters may not be improved when Tysan decides to make things more harmonious.
So episode 20 kicks off with Bray and Ebony's little discussion as they come to an agreement concerning a deal that will benefit both the Locos and the Mallrats, as Bray offers her the means to power in exchange for leaving them alone. And it's this event that quickly leads Ebony to spin a yarn to her tribe about being told she must lead them in a dream by Zoot. So, yeah, quite a few questions here. First of all, what did you think of the deal between Ebony and Bray? What do you think of Ebony's speech? And why do you think the Locos kind of bought into this story? Because, yeah, Zoot's kind of a ruthless leader, but he's not really this religious icon at this point in time. Yeah, what are your thoughts about all of that?
First off, I just really loved the conversation between Bray and Ebony, because it showed us so much about Bray's true character. And I think Ebony said it all. She summed up Bray's existence to a point with her, "I see what you're saying, man, but that's your talent, making what you want seem like the best thing for everybody."
Mm-hmm.
And she says that about Bray, but it's very true about herself as well.
Like attracts like.
Because, well, yeah, she knows how to spin things in her favor. And I actually never really noticed until now that Bray actually gave her the idea. Keep the name alive.
Yeah.
The rituals, the legend of Zoot, just pretend he's still alive.
I was going to bring that up, like, how we've kind of talked about that, and that was totally, like, Bray's idea from the word.
Yeah.
And it, like, we've only been talking about it for 20 episodes, and now it's like, oh, hey, way to catch up.
Yeah, Bray actually is the person who always said he didn't want his brother to be seen as a god, and yet there he was telling her to make him out to be some kind of god, and she simply responds with, "Cool, a new religion with me as the high priestess."
Well, remember, she did start the priestess thing before.
Yeah,
that was
her priestess power.
So he just kind of played up into what she wanted, really. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, he did play up the aspect of Zoot that he said he didn't want to do. So yeah.
He started the whole Zoot lives craze. The religion, the god status. At the end of the day, it's all on Bray here.
Way to go, Bray.
I really like Bray in this episode, and I really love this conversation between him and Ebony. I love how genuine and honest Bray is able to be for a few minutes, and with Ebony of all people. Everyone else he has to tiptoe around. Every time he says anything, it's the wrong thing. Every other female in his life is annoyed with whatever he says, no matter how hard he's trying not to cause conflict. And just for a moment with Ebony, he's able to express how he really feels about this whole thing. You know, he has not been able to mourn his brother properly or even talk about how he feels about it. You know, Trudy has not provided that for him. She does not care that his brother's dead. She never loved his brother. That causes a lot of tension between the two of them. But here with Ebony, he can express, you know, the remorse, the guilt, the anger and frustration at his brother's death. She doesn't mock him for it, even though she easily could. She just hears him. And he's like, when he says, do you think I'm happy he's dead? She can't respond to that because she knows, of course, he's not. She gets that he loved his brother. And it's a really neat scene of respect between adversaries. Like, for a moment, again, these bitter exes, they can't stay angry at each other all the time. They connect. There's something about Bray and Ebony that always brings them back together. There was a place they connected. If their ideals were just a little different, they would be such a great team together. But so I really like that. I like how she's listening to him and letting him get this out, and he can be honest with her about how he's feeling right now. And for a second, they just drop the facade. He's like, look, what do you want? I just don't want you bothering my friends. She doesn't really want to bother his friends. So she's like, okay, what have you got to offer? You know, I like the deal. I like the diplomacy behind it. You know, Bray knowing exactly what she wants. She wants power. And attacking the Mallrats ain't going to get her there. There's no point in that. And she knows the same thing. And she's honest about her concerns. How do I know your brother isn't alive and you guys aren't starting something? And I did recognize as soon as Zoot, the Chosen storyline started propping up. I remember the first time watching it and thinking, wait a second, that sounds really familiar. This idea of Zoot as a god and an icon. And then I remembered this episode between Bray and Ebony, and I was like, oh my gosh, Bray inadvertently started something. He didn't mean to. It was just an off the cuff, like, whatever. Just say, you got a meeting at the palm of your hand, Ebony. Tell him whatever you want, you know? And I imagine his face. Imagine the moment Bray realized that that's what it turned into. That's not what he was going for. He wasn't trying to turn his brother into God. You guys just said that's the last thing he really wanted. But
it's funny. I would have loved to see more of Bray and Ebony together, like working together.
There is a dynamic energy between Bray and Ebony that's always very fascinating. And so I really love that. I also really love the fact that Bray being productive. I love him. You know me. I love productive characters, blah, blah, blah. I say it all the time. I know. But I like the fact that Bray caused this problem. He didn't mean to. He got captured by the Locos. He accidentally led Ebony back to the mall, put his friends in danger. And as soon as he realized that, you know, none of their precautions were going to protect them, he went out and solved this problem. You know what I mean? I liked that. I liked Bray going out there to fix something that he had caused and just like, okay, we can't fight the Locos. I need to just talk to Ebony and make a deal with her. And it's not like a bad deal. He's not throwing anyone under the bus. He's not screwing anyone over. He's not making any promises he can't keep. He just gives her his brother's necklace, you know? And he'd handle it. He made sure his home and his friends are going to be fine. He fixed the problem he started by accident. And I was like, good for you, Bray. Kudos. Good problem solving. I like that. As for the Locos believing Ebony's story, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if at the time there were plenty of them who were just like, really? But like, whatevs. You know what I mean?
I don't think they have a better option at this point, though. Like,
right. Like, what else are they going to do? It's like,
you know, like,
right, fine, I
you're
guess.
giving us the information we need. We might as well just go along with it, whatever.
Yeah, you know, she says it with conviction. And I mean, I'm sure there are some kids who definitely were like, dude, that was his necklace. Where'd it go? How'd she get it? Whoa. You know, I'm sure there was some of them who felt that way. And others who were just like, yeah, I guess that works for me. Whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, it's not like they can just join another tribe. They've made so many enemies.
Yeah, they're nestled in. This is their tribe. This is where they are. Most of these kids aren't looking for rhyme or reason anyway. So, yeah, you know, she can get them to chant anything. And all you have to do is, if you're a Loco leader, you just need to yell a lot and with conviction. You know, so yeah, I'm not too surprised that they fell in line with it.
And especially if you think about it, that later a part of this tribe joins the Guardian and his crazy ideas.
Well, I think a lot of that just goes back to the fact that they are kids and they're looking for stability of an adult figure, even though there are no adults. So it's the person who screams loudest, who looks somewhat more like an adult. And why not go with that person? Because they're the next best thing we have to a mom and dad right now.
It's also a natural progression to the evolution of this world. Like we've already discussed, tribes like the Locos and the way they run, they're not going to go very far. You know, those movements, they peter out, you know, and they lose their momentum. And the Locos lose their momentum, especially you have to consider that there's another virus coming up. Things change, you know, and I like the fact that we don't know exactly how, you know, certain kids break off from the Locos and start the Chosen, but it is fascinating to know that these things are happening in the background, that this world is always churning, wheels are always turning, change is always happening, the dynamics are always happening outside the mall. It makes the world feel far more alive. And I also noticed Sammy in the background.
Yes, he is in this episode.
And I did not realize that he was an extra all the way back to season 1. I was like, holy crap, this kid was hanging around the set for 4 seasons before they gave him a role.
I don't think, like, the casting agency in New Zealand is that big. I mean, even if you look at Lord of the Rings, there are tribe actors in there. So I'm sure they're just like any kid in this age group, like, come on down for a fun, we'll give you pizza.
It was actually something I only realised when Lucas Hayward got in touch with us. We were trying to get him on for an interview.
I remember that.
I was watching it today. I still forgot that he was in it. I was like, oh wow. Yeah. I remember that, yeah.
No, I'd never caught him in the background of season 1. From season 2 on, I'd seen him, but I missed him every time in season 1. And so when I saw him, I was like, wow, that's how long you've been an extra? That's crazy. Oh, the things Sammy has seen.
Ooh, did anyone notice the little joke between Bray and Ebony with his white man speak with forked tongue?
I was like, whoa, did you just say that?
And her response instantly, always, even Zoot, especially Zoot.
Yeah.
I like it because it's a hint at the history of their own country. I mean, every country has some history of colonization, and historically most colonization has been done by, you know, white Europeans. And so I do like that little touch of history at New Zealand, you know, and that is definitely something that would be part of Ebony's heritage. And so I thought it was a really nice touch, you know, just a nice intimate part of conversation. You either get it or you don't. But again, it's just a great conversation between these two people. It makes you feel the history between them and the complicated dynamic between them. They should hate each other. They act like they hate each other, and yet they're able to have completely civil conversations and moments of understanding. So
and he knows he can get away with saying that to her.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't ever, like, I think we're supposed to want them to hate each other, but I think there's a mutual understanding that isn't hate. Like, yeah, they're exes or what could not have been, I don't know, but I think there's almost like a mutual respect there and not so much of a hate.
I just think it's a very complicated, dynamic, and organic sort of relationship, just like in real life. You can never really put the needle on what these two feel for each other because it's always evolving with the way they're feeling at any particular moment. It's just complicated. They have history. They've been through a lot. They've seen a lot together. They've shared a lot together. And that's just realistic, you know? I have relationships with people like this. It's just not that simple how you feel about them. And once you share something intimate with someone, it can't always be easy to walk away from them, even if it would be better if you did. They're a really great example of two people who, even though they've got great chemistry and sometimes have great understanding and look like they would work so well together, they simply can't. You know, there's certain places they just can't come together. They're just very fascinating to watch, and it's enjoyable for 3 seasons watching them dance around each other. One of the best people Dwayne has chemistry with, her and Beth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
I do like how preceding seasons do utilize Ebony's speeches because she is really great at controlling crowds and using her words, and I really like that aspect of her. She's not just physical; she's got all these words she can move people with.
Yeah, she is a fantastic orator. She's probably the best in the entire, like, all 5 seasons. Anybody who's ever had to control a crowd with their voice alone.
Yeah,
she is the best at it. She can handle almost any crowd and has only failed maybe twice at, you know, quelling the raging mob. And it's so sad because it's like this girl has so much potential to fix this city. You know what I mean? Like, Ebony could be the greatest leader the city would ever see. But she gets in her own way. Definitely
one of those people who's like painted as one sort of character, and yet there's so much more to her. Like, especially early on, like, she is the villain, and yet she is one of the stronger characters, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I actually like the fact that sometimes her villainy isn't even painted as villainy. It's more that her goals are just different. Like, what she wants happens to be different from our heroes. And her belief in how she should get it is different from our heroes. And she's just as determined as our heroes are to get it. I'm not saying this to excuse any of her abominable actions that she'll take, but I do think it's fascinating that she isn't painted in black and white as just a bad guy. We always really understand her motives and why she does the things she does, and they can be very relatable. Even if we wouldn't do the same thing, we at least get where she's coming from and why she thinks this is the way it needs to be done.
You have to keep her quiet. We're expecting an attack.
Don't tell me what to do. You, of all people.
What's that supposed to mean?
Oh, I've seen how you look at Bray, making big eyes at him.
Trudy, your baby is screaming and you're ignoring it.
Who do you think you are? You come in here, boss me round, accuse me. I don't have to take that.
Then look after Brady properly.
I will, if you get out of my face.
Trudy and Amber's so-called friendship, and I say so-called because obviously in the last podcast we did mention how unhealthily one-sided it was, and it's in the scene that Trudy instantly turns the situation on its head as Amber comes to find out what was happening with Brady, and she snaps at her. Just to shift the topic a bit, but does anyone feel sorry for Amber at all in this scene?
No.
I absolutely feel sorry for Amber.
Yeah, I feel bad for Amber.
For Pete's sake, she hasn't done anything wrong. She has never done anything to earn the way Trudy treats her. Okay? She's literally checking up on a crying baby when they're supposed to be waiting for an invasion. Mm-hmm. And all she's like, what's going on? Poor Brady is screaming her lungs out. So she comes in to make sure Brady's okay. And it's not as though, Trudy's preoccupied or she can't take care of Brady. She just doesn't care what happens to Brady, herself, or anybody else. And then has the nerve to be pissed when Amber asks what's the matter. Amber doesn't come in and accuse her. She asks her what's the matter first. Like, maybe there's a reason Trudy's behaving this way and Brady's screaming. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So she asks her. I would have immediately come in and said, shut this up, stop it right now. You know what I mean? But no, Amber comes in patiently with understanding, like, what's happening, what's going on. And Trudy immediately attacks her. And at this point, it's just like, I'm sick of your crap, Trudy. You know what I mean? Amber did not deserve this. She hasn't done anything wrong. And she's right. You're letting your child scream at the top of her lungs. Maybe she's hungry, for Pete's sake. Take care of your kid. At some point, there's no excuse for the way Trudy is behaving.
She's just really good at playing the victim at this point.
She just doesn't care. And she takes zero responsibility for the way she acts and causes her own problems, because she has caused this problem herself. And just, it's so much for friendship. I'm right up there with you. Like, ugh. The only reason there's a friendship at all is because Amber's putting the effort in.
I just like the fact that, for once, someone tells Amber that she isn't boss of them. Who do you think you are? You come in here, boss me around, accuse me? I don't have to take that.
No.
Yeah, you do, because
I don't think Trudy, like, Amber ever came into boss. It was hey, your kid's screaming.
Come on.
Can I even help you?
Your bias is off the charts right now. I know how much you love Trudy, but that's ridiculous.
She was looking
nothing
crying on her shoulder the other day, and now she's coming to check on her, and like, no, that's not fair. Come on.
That's such an unfair judgment right there.
Sorry, Sabine.
Absolutely. You're acting like Amber's the one who did something wrong, and Trudy called her out, and it's like, did you see the same scene I did?
You know what? How I love it when people are mean to Amber.
Yeah, we know, we get it, even when it's completely unjustified.
Because I mean, even if because we see Trudy, she's in one of her moods again, and Amber's really just like, hey, what can I do to help? And let me help you. And Trudy's just like, nope, I'm gonna bite your head off.
And stay away from my boyfriend while you're at it. Like, oh
no.
Come on, really? Older you 10, knock it off. Stop it. Just ugh.
I also, I did like the Trudy drawing love hearts and writing Bray, because it just instantly reminded me of teenage laugh.
Yes.
Right?
I thought that was quite like annoyingly cute, but yeah.
It does make me
Annoyingly
wonder what the writers were going for with Trudy, because there are times when it feels as though they are aiming at true depression as being what's going on with Trudy, like a chemical imbalance
Yeah.
in her brain and with her hormones. And there are times when she really does come across as someone who that is what she's suffering from.
Yeah.
And then there are other times they paint her as nothing more than a petulant child. You know what I mean? Who's just throwing a tantrum because she's not getting what she wants.
Little of both.
So I am confused as to what they're going for with Trudy. Is Trudy clinically depressed, or is Trudy just being a brat? You know,
I think it's a little
Yeah,
of
I'm
both.
with you on that because I was wondering that as well.
You can have a little bit of both.
because if she's clinically depressed, there is like some excuse for what she's doing because she can't quite help it. But if she's just being a brat, then it's completely inexcusable that she's behaving this way.
I mean,
So it's a little hard to how to feel about her behavior. Like in this moment, this scene is totally painted as Trudy's just being a snot. That's it. Whole scene. That's how this whole episode she's treated that way. But for example, in the last episode, she's treated with a little more sensitivity in that maybe she can't help the way her hormones are controlling her and the way her brain.
are we back to Trudy being possibly bipolar?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it still fits very much in with Trudy's.
But as soon as Trudy
character.
decides to not be this way anymore, she just isn't. That's why I don't think she's bipolar, because when she decides, okay, I'm going to behave and be a decent person, boom, she's just suddenly a very decent person. Yeah, sure, she's emotional, but she controls how she treats people despite how she's feeling. It doesn't feel like this is something that's out of her control. It's just that she doesn't feel like exerting any control over her actions right now. And when she does decide to, behave, she's perfectly capable of keeping herself you know what I mean? So that's why I don't feel like it's a medical condition.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it always did feel
I feel like it's a medical.
It
It wouldn't just go away. That's what I'm saying.
neurodiversity.
But it doesn't just go away.
But
though.
with Trudy, it does. Like this pattern of
Yeah.
like okay, how do I explain this?
Never
All right. For example, it's almost like this is a bad message to tell people who suffer from depression that, oh, it'll just go away if you decide to act right. So I don't really feel like that's what they're trying to do with Trudy, because that's not how it works. If you actually suffer from depression or, bipolar disorders or whatever, they don't go away just because you decide to be determined that you're going to be a better person. You know what I mean? And with Trudy, this isn't a cycle of behavior. Yeah, she's emotional going forward. She'll always be a very emotional person, but she's never like this again, where she's just unhinged without a good reason for being unhinged very much, where she's just treating people like garbage just because, and then immediately falls apart. It doesn't feel like that's something you can just make go away because you just decided to have an epiphany.
See, I've always seen it as a cycle with Trudy.
Because once Trudy comes back to take care of her daughter, we don't see her this bad again without like a real.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not explaining myself well. It doesn't feel like this is an actual condition that you would need pills for or therapy for, because she's able to just. It's like Ram being dying. He's supposed to be dying, and then he's cured with tough love, and it just doesn't make any sense anymore. Like, I thought this guy was on death's door. He was in a coma and he needed pills, but all he needed was some tough love from Slade and he's fine. And we're not going to explain that. That's what Trudy getting better feels like. It doesn't feel like it was ever an actual condition she had to get over, just more behavior.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I was like, am I explaining myself?
No, I'm with you on this, yeah.
Because I've had family suffer from depression and bipolar disorder, and it doesn't go away just because they're trying really hard. You know what I mean? Like my aunt, she actually needed to get medication because her bipolar disease, it didn't go away just because she tried to be a better woman and a better mom or a better friend. It was out of her control. She did not have control over the chemistry in her brain. She had to get outside help. So no matter how hard she wanted to be a better person, it was always going to be there, a monkey on her back, making it impossible for her to even just get through a day. She had to get outside help. And so that's, yeah.
How am I going to explain my thoughts on this?
Yeah. I see it as a cycle. Like, it's not necessarily a switch or an outside thing getting better. Like, there are obviously no pills or anything in this world, but I think Trudy looks outside of herself to find that sort of thing that she needs. So, like, we've talked about her postpartum depression and all of that, and once I think it's a conscious decision, and even though it's always in the back of her brain to have these thoughts, she's able to push them aside for her daughter or for whatever it is that she needs to do it for. And as someone who does suffer from mental things as well, like, there are things that I can do for myself to even get out of that headspace. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to say.
No, I'm with you on that one, Hill. Yeah, because there's a lot more in neurodiversity than just bipolar or stuff that needs to be treated with drugs, as people might see it. But
exactly, like, I feel like brains, like our brain can be wired to self-regulate as well. And I've actually read that, like, people with depression and things like, or autism even, they are very good at masking. And it's kind of like a superpower that they have, is I say we because I consider myself in this category as well. Like, we know kind of what our things are that aren't quite right. Mm-hmm. And we learn to adapt and mask. Because even, like, in Tri-World, any sort of weakness would be a weakness, and you don't want to portray that. Mm-hmm. If I'm this depressed lump that can't survive myself, nobody is going to want me in their group if I'm just going to be a leech on society.
But I mean, in terms of Trudy, though, she's not worried about that. She's, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't feel like she cares about that either. She never shows any real concern for the fact that the way she's behaving is making her an outcast in her own group. She just doesn't care. She doesn't seem to even fear that they'll throw her out. And then she's shocked if it even comes up that they might not want her. I just don't feel like her behavior is someone who recognizes she needs to, like, is trying to mask. I get what you guys are saying about what you go through. I'm just saying that Trudy's behavior does not reflect what you guys are saying. That's all. Like, she does not behave that way. And that's not the way her scenes and her actions are painted in any way.
Yeah, she has no idea that she's doing things wrong at the moment.
Yeah, but she does, because then she immediately apologizes.
But she realizes
she does know
but I think that's a different,
is wrong. Like, she's not oblivious that it's wrong to treat people or act this way. She just doesn't care when she's doing it. She's just like, oh, I've always been able to get away with treating people this way, so I'm going to do it. And only after does she go, oh, maybe that wasn't a good idea, and then she apologizes.
That's a thing, though.
That's very different than continually treating people like crap, knowing it's wrong to do that, and then apologizing after the fact. They're not the same thing.
But isn't it, though? Because
you got that? Yeah. Like, how... Sabine, help me out.
We'll just draw a line on this conversation, because I don't think we're going to get to a...
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a very interesting topic. I'm sure we'll come back to it many times with Trudy, but yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I get what everyone's saying.
Any listeners, give us what you think. This is clearly a very deep, subject matter on Trudy's mental state, whether she really is somebody who has an imbalance or she's just a spoiled brat, or is it a mixture of the two? What do you think? Let us know.
Where have you been? I found Ebony and made a deal. We're safe from her and the locals for the time being. I see. Bray says it's okay, and it's okay.
So let's move to Bray as he returns to the mall to tell the others about the deal with Ebony. Or does he? Because another conversation, Lex attempts to force Bray into custody after he arrives. But it's in this scene that it kind of annoys me, because Bray doesn't actually reveal the actual terms of the deal to the rest of the tribe. and it's just like a recurring theme with Bray. I mean, does it annoy you? What do you think about him not telling everyone about the deal? And like, do you think it makes him still be mysterious? Do you think do you think the writers are trying to keep him as this mysterious figure, or is it just annoying? Like, what do you think?
Honestly, I thought it was kind of irrelevant, like the details of his deal with Ebony. If the deal had somehow involved the mall rats having to do something, or like would just affect their lives in some way, then I definitely would feel he should tell them. But literally, the only deal he made was, "Hey, I'll give you this thing that belonged to my brother if you leave us alone." You know what I mean? Like, I don't really feel like it's relevant for the mall rats to need those details.
I think the details were more relevant to Lex because he wanted to know if Bray managed to get from Ebony what he couldn't.
Yeah, I definitely think. I think that's what it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why Lex cared. It's like, how did you work with her when she made me look like a fool? You know what I mean? Like, but otherwise, nobody really cared about the details of whatever he might have to do.
I think it's just the fact that Bray, like, he's part of this tribe, and he never willingly reveals details.
Yeah.
Unless really forced.
To me, like, information is power, and even if it's non-information, like, there really wasn't anything said, but even just alluding to information that may or may not be there, like, gives you kind of a one-up. And if you want to be in the group, you probably, like, even if you're just like, yo, I gave her this necklace that was kind of stupid anyways, and she said she'd leave us alone. That was it. End of discussion. Like, you get it out there on the table, everyone kind of knows what's going on, instead of, or if there was a different deal made, like, you let people into the fold.
I would just assume that he managed to convince her we weren't worth attacking, because we're not worth attacking. You know what I mean? Like, I would just assume when Bray came back and he said, I just got on her wavelength, I just talked to her and convinced her to leave us alone. I would assume, like, since I've already understand now that he knew Ebony from before, Ebony knew him and his brother and Trudy from before, I'd be like, okay, maybe he cashed in on that friendship. It's still possible. People still do it, not to mention, this is Bray. He was the brother of the leader of the Locos. You know what I mean? I'd be like, okay, it's quite possible he did have a relationship with Ebony that allowed him to convince her to just leave us alone. Why would Ebony want to bother us anyway? She saw for herself we're not threat. It'd be different if his lack of telling them the exact details had caused problems in the future. Like, for them, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe the necklace was important to all of them. Someone was pissed that he gave it. I don't know. Like, if there had been some kind of consequence to Bray not telling him that detail, then I'd be like, Bray, you should have told them. But there isn't. There's zero consequence to them knowing that detail. It's an intimate one.
It's more. It's not the fact that he doesn't tell them this deal. It's more that he doesn't tell them really anything. Like,
anything. That's
tribe,
the thing.
He won't venture forth anything unless forced to. So that's like, it's, I find it annoying.
That's what I was getting at, or trying to at least. Like, you kind of have to give, if you want to be a part of the group, you've got to have some sort of information flow, even if it's not that big
since
of a
he's
deal.
arrived, he's had all these secrets,
even if you're like, hey guys, I ate the last can of corn. Like, sorry, you've got to give up information if you're going to live with a group of people.
But Bray has never done that.
No, exactly.
It wouldn't have been in character for him to tell them what was going on.
Because basically the tribe is just a bunch of roommates too. So, we have this big survival thing and we have to, fight for our place in the world. But at the end of the day, we also need to be a good roommate. And if there's an information exchange that needs to happen with that. And Bray doesn't give up any sort of information.
I don't think that's fair. He has gotten better. Okay, like, Bray is making progress on his journey to being someone who understands that you need to disclose some details to people in order to maintain trust between each other. So if you go back to Bray's, the way he first was when he showed up, he really disclosed nothing. He didn't say anything. He held back very vital information that people needed to know so they could make an informed decision about anything. And then he had to learn the hard way that that's not acceptable and that the group wouldn't accept it. And so here he is making strides to be more open with whatever is going on with him. Earlier Bray would never have admitted to being captured by the Locos. You know what I mean? He would have been like, I I don't know, it's not your business where I was or what happened to me. But he did. He admitted, I got captured by the locos, you know. This time he admitted straight up, I went to talk to Ebony. I don't think earlier Bray would have done that. I think he is getting better at disclosing information. For whatever reason, Bray's just a very private person and he holds everything to his chest. I don't know why he thinks he has to hold everything to his chest. Maybe he has trust issues, just like, you know, Amber does. And but he is getting better at disclosing what is going on with him with the group. Next time he'll even ask permission before leaving. Like he's getting better. He's learning that, okay, this is required to be in this group. They need to believe they can trust me. Even though I haven't done anything wrong, they need to know they can trust me. So I do think he's getting better at disclosing information. I'm not surprised he didn't mention the details of this, but he did tell him, look, I went to talk to Ebony. I made a deal with her. She's going to leave us alone. And nobody but Lex cared about the details. Like, they just didn't, you know? And the only reason and we all know the only reason why Lex cared is because he's like, how did you manage to work with her?
Yeah, my charms weren't enough. So how on earth did you
nobody else even cared? They just walked her like, oh, okay, thanks for using your whatever your relationship was with her. So I get you guys' frustration. I don't think it makes him mysterious. It's annoying, but it didn't annoy me in this episode. That's all.
I do have to say, I found it cute how Bray just congratulated the boys on the tripwire and just completely ignored whatever Lex was saying, telling, okay, officer, I'll come quiet.
There even was like a moment when he tripped it. Like he kind of gave a little smile of like, oh, it worked. Like that was cool, which I noticed this time around, which was pretty
cute.
Funny.
He was very impressed. Like, oh, it worked.
He's like, hey,
well done, guys.
I'm the reason why, and this is not going to end out well for me. But
I'll tell you why it annoyed me actually a little bit more because everyone, like when Bray arrived, everyone says, "Oh, it's just Bray. It's just Bray." We know that he comes and goes.
Yeah.
Like this, that's the thing he does. That's fine. I think it's that aspect that makes it more annoying for me that he just comes and doesn't reveal the information.
I'm with you on that, Lance. Like, if you have a roommate who does that, you're like, what are you doing? Are you a drug dealer? Like, why are you coming and going?
You guys, he's the Daryl of the group, man. Sometimes he just goes off with his bows and arrows and on his motorcycle, and everyone knows he'll make his way back, and then he's not going to cause any trouble for them, so they're just like, eh.
But still, like
that
they've given him all this trust. Like, oh yeah, he comes and goes. He can leave whenever he likes, come back when he likes. Like, just at least just tell them. Like, there was no reason to keep that to his chest. Like, tell them.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it was personal. I don't know. He did take that talisman from his brother's body. I don't know why he took it. Think about it. If he doesn't really, he never cared for his brother's persona as Zoot. Why would he take one of his belongings that Zoot, that Martin, he didn't take it as leverage in the beginning.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think it meant something to the family.
I think it meant something to him, and he actually gave it up. So I do think there's something personal about that exchange with Ebony. You know, I mean, I'm not saying you guys are wrong to be annoyed with this, you know, Bray's comings and goings and never feeling like he needs to say anything. And again, he's learning that he should, and he'll get there. But Bray will always have a sense of keeping certain details to himself. He's just sort of a private person, you know. And I get that. I don't disclose a lot to people. You know, I let them see what they see, but me, the inch of me, I don't let them see that at all. So I do get that, but it's also, it can be really annoying. But I think it's really cute when Lex goes, the locos could be out there. And Bray's like, I don't think they would need me to signal them. Your alarm would do it. That's a cute exchange.
And just the way he responds to everything with it. I think I'm gonna need a good lawyer.
Let's move on to the ultimatum. So a frustrated Celine confronts Bray and tells him to choose between herself and Trudy. Yeah, was Celine right to force this ultimatum on Bray like this? Especially since we already know that Bray doesn't want complications. He doesn't want anything too heavy. He spent months running from Trudy. What do you think about that sudden ultimatum?
Anyone who puts an ultimatum like that in life is just no, should not happen.
It's a good reason to kick her out.
Yeah, like that's not a good relationship.
I'm on the fence. On one hand, I do agree that it's a bit much and a little soon to be basically telling someone they need to make a choice between you or someone else when you've only kissed a couple times and you've barely been flirting and it's not even really understood. I think it would have made more sense if Celine had simply, because I know Celine just wants an answer as to what the heck is going on between them. Does he actually want to be with her, or is he going to stick with Trudy? And she is right to want that answer. She definitely deserves to know, like, are you just messing around with me? Are you actually, do you want to be with me? Do you want to be my boyfriend? Because I need to know that. And that's fair. That's a totally fair thing for her to ask. Like, just can you clarify what this is? Because I'm not going to share you. And if you really feel like you need to take care of Trudy, then you need to stop kissing me. You know what I mean? Like, you need to stop, leading me on and making me think that there's something between us. So I'm in the middle where she definitely had the right to ask him to make up his mind about whether or not he likes her and whether or not he wants to be with her. She's right to ask that. But yeah, making it come down to, look, you need to choose me or her. I just would want answers, and she deserves answers. But it does seem like she's framing it as though, look, you need to make a choice about what, like, me or her, when I really think she should have been saying, you need to make a choice about what it is you want and then stick with that, because he is leading Celine on right now. You know what I mean? And how would you feel if you had a guy who, on one hand seems like, okay, he needs to go take care of this person. He needs to be with that person. And he's clearly telling that person that he'll try and take care of them. But then every time he's away, with you, he's showing an interest in intimacy in you, and he's kissing you. And you'd be like, dude, I just need to know where I stand with you. Like, are we boyfriend and girlfriend, or am I just something to get your frustration out on? I don't want to be that,
I do think she would have had a better chance at the answer she liked if she wouldn't have instantly thrown in that she thinks she's in love with him. If she hadn't thrown in the love word, she might have.
She had to check her own feelings a little bit.
Well, young people like to throw that around a lot. She thinks that what he feels for her is sincere, so why not tell him the truth about how she feels? Girls are usually more earnest about that than boys are. We're very quick to tell you, especially at that age, we're very quick to tell you we like you. And, boys are more likely to be like, I don't know what to do with that information. That's overwhelming. And then, of course, we learn through the aspect of dating that that's not something you jump into very quickly. But when you first start dating, you don't know that. And you will throw it out there. You'll tell someone you love them in a heartbeat before you learn that discretion, honey. Pull it back a little bit. And then there are people who would love to hear someone that say that to them immediately, If Bray had told her, I love you, she would have been on cloud 9. So of course she thinks that she should tell him that. For Pete's sake, Trudy did it right after his brother was dead. I mean, there's just no sense of, you can hold that back a little bit. Maybe this is not the right time. It's too soon to say that to somebody. I don't think she would have gotten the answer. I don't know if she would have got. I think she deserved an answer. That's all I can say. Maybe she shouldn't have framed it the way she did as an ultimatum, but he does need to make a choice. He can't keep dabbling between the two of them. Even Amber told him, dude, you need to make up your mind. I actually prefer the way Celine put it compared to Amber, because Celine doesn't insinuate that he has to choose either one, just that he has to choose. She doesn't say you have to choose me or you have to choose Trudy. Just, dude, make a choice as to what the deal is. Amber insinuates that he has to choose Trudy because Trudy's his responsibility. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair for anyone to try and say that Trudy is Bray's responsibility, because she's not. And I'm firm on that. Just because he chose to take care of her when she was pregnant, he was trying to bring her and his brother back together. There's nothing in the rule book that says Bray had to take on this responsibility. And I don't think it's fair for anyone to tell him that it's on him. Yes, Trudy's fragile, but I'm sorry, that's not Bray's problem. He doesn't have to take it on. It's admirable for him to do it, but he doesn't have to. And I don't think that was fair of Amber at all.
Yeah, that was one of my next questions I was going to ask. In the scene later on with Trudy, Bray practically tells her that he forgot about their commitment, and that he, well, was practically willing to give up his own happiness to help keep her own mental issues at bay. Did anyone feel sorry for him at that point?
I did. Absolutely. No one else's, I mean, unless it's your children or maybe your parents, you are not responsible for someone else's emotional state. And it's not fair that Trudy's going through this, but it's not on Bray. It's not his responsibility. And I don't think that he should be expected to throw away his own well-being to take care of her. It's not even what she wants anyway. I mean, look at the way she reacts. Here he is saying, I'll be there for you. I forgot my responsibility. And she throws another temper tantrum because it's not the declaration of love she wanted. You know, he already told you he doesn't love you, but he is trying to commit to you in some way. And of course, it's still not what you want. And Bray shouldn't have been put in that position in the first place at all. It's not fair to him. And none of this has been fair to him. And yeah, I didn't care for that. And I did feel bad for him.
Sabine?
Oh, I know. I already know. I can't. Tell me, please. It's all him. He should do this. Go ahead. I can't wait to hear it.
I know. I felt bad for Bray, but on the other hand, he admits that he made a commitment to her and to Brady, and he admits that he made her believe he would be there for her always, you know, and she might have seen it differently than he meant it, but he does realize very well that that's how it came across to her.
That doesn't mean he has to be her boyfriend. It doesn't mean he can he can be there for Trudy and Brady and not be her partner. You know what I mean? Like when he committed to her, he meant, I'm never going to abandon you. I'm never going to leave you in the streets on your own. I will make sure you guys have a roof over your head. Yeah. It's not the same as being like, I'm going to be your lifelong partner and help you raise your kid. You know, it's not fair to him that that's the way Trudy saw it. And he's just trying to be fair right now. He's just trying to like make up with her.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't his kid. He does not owe these two anything. I'm sorry. I know that may sound cold-blooded, but Bray chose to be a good person and take care of them. He didn't have to. And he is looking after Trudy, even without being her partner. And he very carefully tells her that he's not in love with her, but he, you know, feels responsibility for her.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's not fair. I just don't think it's right. I don't like when things, I really didn't like Amber doing that at all. That's where I feel like she really took it too far in getting involved in this love triangle. Just, Amber, enough. Enough is enough. I get why she did it. I understand she's very worried about Trudy, you know, but not really fair. And I get, you know, he did bring Trudy there. So in Amber's eyes, maybe Trudy really is his problem because they wouldn't be dealing with Trudy if it wasn't for Bray.
Yeah, to me, it always felt like Trudy was sort of Bray's responsibility in this, and I know that's not fair on him, but yeah, I guess he just put himself in that position as well.
It's gonna suck. That really does. You're just trying to do the right thing. And the whole point was to get her back with his brother, to get their family together. And then his brother gets himself killed.
And she gets unhinged.
And then it's just like, all of a sudden everyone's expecting him to step up to the plate. And that's not fair, you know? And then there's even just a sense of, should I? Is that my responsibility? Is that what I should do? You know? And suddenly his life is just not his own anymore. It hasn't been ever since the virus, all because of his brother, you know? And that's a lot of baggage. That's a lot of baggage. I would strangle one of my brothers if they put me through that. I so would. And be so mad at them for leaving me in that situation. Ugh. Because you can see the moment Bray realized he was never going to be free again. Never be free to make his own decisions and have things that would make him happy. I mean, when he's talking to Amber and talking about love, I do think he's talking about how he feels about her, but he doesn't feel the freedom to explore those feelings. Like, he's not in love with Celine. So it's easy to dabble in a flirtation with Celine without thinking much about it. He won't let himself do that with Amber because it means too much, you know, and he's stuck like with this yoke around his neck. And here's Amber telling him he has to keep it on because it's the right thing. And he's like, what about love, Amber? Isn't it worse to fake it? You know what I mean? He's tired of faking it. He wants to be able to tell her, and it's almost like he's looking for that hint, permission from her to say how he really feels. And it's one of the few moments I really do like between Bray and Amber. It's a lot not being said there.
Ebony led me on. I was powerless. It was like she cast some spell over me. Yeah, that's it. Like she hypnotized me. Used magic or something?
You're pathetic.
From one relationship to another, let's move on to Lex. I want to talk about this scene because it did make me laugh. What are the panel's thoughts about Lex's defense to Zandra about what happened with Ebony, where he mentions hypnotism and magic? What caused him to do what he did?
Barf. Jeez, give me a doggy bag. Ugh. That was the lamest, most unimaginative excuse.
That was like a dog ate my homework. That was so bad. It's like, why did you even say that?
I mean, saying that to Ryan is one thing. Saying that to Zandra, though?
Oh my gosh.
You gotta admit, though, it is fun to watch him squirm. Like, he was squirming, and he needed a something. And, it's like, I think they almost hinted at one point, like, that Ebony is some sort of mystic of some sort. So, like, sure, at the time it sounds good. That's the only thing I got going for me right now. Let's roll with it and see what happens. It was dumb, but...
The high priestess of the Locos casting a spell.
I guess I can't find it funny because when you go back to that scene between Lex and Ebony and knowing that Lex was perfectly willing to sexually assault her and now he's painting it as though she was the one who seduced him, it's just really gross. It makes me want to vomit that's the way he paints what he was doing. Like, ugh. It'd be different if it'd been, perfectly consensual, the flirtation between him and Ebony. You know what I mean? Then he could say that and it'd be funny. But no, he was going to that cage to force himself on her. And now he's painting it as though, oh, she tricked me. She hypnotized me. I was out of my control. And I'm like, you're disgusting. You really are inexcusably disgusting.
I do have to say, I really like Sandra's response to it. But you're pathetic. Yes. You've come to grovel, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I've enjoyed Zandra's reaction to it. Even though I know for Zandra, it's not really even about a moralistic issue. That for her, it's just, her female ego is bruised and she's angry. It's been fun to watch. Mm-hmm. Even though she's more upset about this than she was about his sexual assault. Like, seriously, this is a messed up relationship. Oh, it hurts my head. But it's real. I've seen these relationships.
And yeah, Lex's frustration obviously leads us to the next scene where he takes it out on a punching bag. And it's in that scene where Tai-San arrives and gives him a really interesting discussion about multiple wives in old tribes throughout history. And she mentions Zandra's inability to give Lex what he wants. Yeah, I mean, that was a sudden turn by Tai-San. Did it surprise the panel at all? Especially after everything that Tai-San had been saying to Zandra about not taking that step with Lex until everything was ready and right. And she just kind of tries to grab Lex from under her. What do you think about what she did?
To me, it always felt like Tai-San tells everyone what they want to hear. She tells Zandra what Zandra needs to hear. She tells Lex what Lex needs to hear. Because Lex wants to know that somehow it would be okay for him to sleep with someone else. And she gives him that option, that suggestion.
Mm.
Well, she doesn't believe in monogamy.
No.
So she doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. And she only suggests marriage to Zandra because Zandra wants commitment and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, she herself doesn't believe in any of that anyway. She understands that's their hang-up, not hers. Again, I'm just like in the middle when it comes to Tai-San. I think it's cool that she does recognize the psychology of the people around her. Yeah, Lex is sexually frustrated and he's become, he's being more aggressively violent than he normally would be and very hard to work with because of it. And while someone else would suggest, therapy, let's talk this out, she just goes straight to the quick. Well, we got to work this out physically then, I don't see it as her swooping in and trying to get him because she doesn't actually want him. She really does. She's looking at him like a project. And that's a problem with some of her beliefs. She does not see this as just people and she doesn't think about the consequences of some of these actions he's going to take. She's looking at Lex. She's seeing the sexual frustration. She knows it won't do any good for he and Zandra to hook up now, which is why she tells Zandra to wait. And, she's right. That was good advice. But she also recognizing that Lex isn't very productive in this headspace. And you can see her with the wheels turning in her head, like thinking to herself, well, I guess I could sleep with him. He's attractive. He's easy on the eyes. I could try this out and see if I can fix him. But that's how she sees him, as something to fix.
She's thinking like Jack. She sees a problem, she sees a solution, so she goes straight ahead.
Yeah. And there's a high at thinking this is something she could solve, and she thinks it's going to be that easy. It's just, that's all Lex needs. He just needs sex, and then he'll be a productive member of society again. And then he and Zandra will be in a better place. And then Zandra can get what she wants, and it'll be harmonious for everybody, and
all for the good of the tribe.
Because she personally does not care about the fallout. She's just in this broad scope of things. She doesn't care that Lex's feelings could get hurt, which they will, because she's not looking at him as a person in that sense. He's just another piece in a machine, in a way. And she's just greasing the wheel, and it never occurs to her the wheel might have taken the grease and greasing in a different way. Like, I thought you cared about me. It's like, it's an admirable side of Tai-San, but at the same time, it's like, ugh, good Lord, you gurus, you can be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But it was refreshing, to have another female character who's just so open with her sexuality and doesn't have any hang-ups about it. I thought that was cool. And I'm sure it's, because the way she presents herself to him, like, do you find me attractive? Do I look more like a woman? She's trying to get a readout. Would he be open to this? Mm-hmm. And, he glances at her like, okay. And she's like, it's like she gets it in her head like, okay, I think he'd be receptive. I'm going to try out this new experiment and see how it works without any real thought of, these are human beings,
Problem, solution.
Yeah, I'll fix this for everybody and it'll be fine. That's what she's thinking. I'm going to fix this.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets his sexual frustration out of the way, then that'll be over and done with in her head.
Because it's not just Zandra he messes up with because of his sexual frustration. He messed it up with Ebony, too. If he was getting it, he wouldn't have had the baby batter on the brain, and he would have been able to guard Ebony properly.
Mm-hmm.
But because he's, I guess, a slave to his passions or whatever, she's like, let me get your head straight. You have a chemical imbalance. It'll be good for everybody if he's not so horny, I guess.
That leads us to our final thoughts of the episode, where some big things start to happen. As well as Tai-San slipping into Lex's bed, we also cut to Trudy, who steals pills from Dao and proceeds to overdose. Yeah, like, immediate thoughts. What did you think?
I thought, this poor girl is so tired of life and everything.
Mm.
Why is she doing this in front of that poor little innocent baby? She fought so hard to take her back from Celine, and thinking Celine stole her from her, only to just end things?
Again, I don't really think Trudy cares much about anybody else. Not Brady. No, she doesn't care about anybody else. And she doesn't care how her actions affect them. That's why she behaves the way she does. And whether or not it's because she's spoiled or because she's got a condition, not going to argue that point, but where she is emotionally, she does not care about other people. She doesn't care how she treats them. She doesn't care how her behavior affects them. So she certainly does not care how this could affect her daughter. I don't even think Trudy would care if there was a possibility for Brady to remember it. And the only reason I think she made a big fuss with Celine having taken Brady is I think she just wanted a reason to be upset. Because logically, come on, she literally saw Bray take Brady from the room, because she confessed that she didn't have any nappies. She'd run out. The baby was screaming. She was too busy concentrating on whether or not he'd slept with Ebony, and so she knows he took Brady. She's just looking for a reason to be upset and have a go at Celine, and she was just hoping to catch the baby with Celine. Maybe Braid might have passed the baby on to her, so she could just scream at her, take out her frustrations on her, but Celine wasn't having it, and she didn't have the baby, and which I think is a funny conversation. Trudy's talking so entitled. I brought her into this world. How dare you say things? And it's like, it takes a lot more to be a parent than to produce a child. Hate to break it to you. Yeah, you gave birth to her. You're still not a mother, honey. Even cockroaches have kids, all right? It's nothing special to have a child. It's about raising them and taking care of them, which you do not do. You technically aren't a mom. Sorry. So yeah, that whole thing. Jeez. Kidnapping the baby. The whole pill scene.
I think she just wanted to be gone from everything. all the friggin' drama to be over with.
I wonder, I'm trying to figure out, I want to be sensitive. This is a very sensitive topic, so I do not want to be flippant or just throw things out there. I don't want to offend anybody. I have fortunately never had to deal with like this kind of clinical depression. Postpartum depression is very different. What I went through, I have never been suicidal. I have never actually wanted to end my life. I have too much of an ego for it. I cannot. I don't like the idea of even fathoming life without me in it. And I don't know what it's like to feel that way. And I've lost friends to suicide, and it's really hard to wrap your head around that. Or if Trudy's suffering from suicidal ideology, which is different. I did have that. A lot of people have that. The idea that suicide can fix things, but it's also under the fantasy that you'll somehow be able to witness that. It's like someone who wants to use suicide as a revenge, because somewhere in their mind they feel like they might even see the revenge. You know, I used to be obsessed with the idea that if I died, these people would be sorry, or you'll miss me when I'm gone. I didn't want to actually be dead. I saw it as a way of, I don't know, emotionally getting back at other people or proving that I was truly loved. Because somewhere in my head, I hadn't fathomed, I'm not going to see any of this. I'm not going to be able to witness it. I'm not going to be at my funeral and see people cry over me. So I'm not really sure which one Trudy's dealing with, you know, whether or not she's using this as a way to get back, or if she truly does not want to be alive anymore. I don't know.
It is something she stated before, though, that she doesn't want to live like this. What use is it to be alive if she can't have what she dreamed of having?
But then there are other things that I found strange about the suicide that almost make me feel like she wanted to get caught. In the last couple of days, how many times has someone had to come in the room because Brady was screaming, right? And Brady still isn't really sleeping fully through the night. So there's a good chance Brady's going to wake up and cry, which means there's a good chance someone's going to come into the room and see what Trudy has done. And again, I've never been through this, so I don't know what the mind frame of someone who really feels like this is. Usually statistically, people who truly want to kill themselves make sure they can't get caught in any way, so it can't be stopped, compared to people who are crying out for help, might do it in a way where there's a chance someone might find him. I don't know if I'm not saying that that's the hard and fast rule or anything, but I just wonder if she did want to get caught, you know?
She wouldn't have taken that many pills, though. We
don't know how many she took. Yeah. We know she dumped the pill bottle out, but we only see her take 2, and then the screen goes to black. And when we see her again, we don't know how many she took.
Yeah, but otherwise she would have hidden some.
She didn't care, remember? She did not care. This is a showpiece. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a dramatic statement. It's very dramatic, all of it. It's very Shakespearean, dropping all the pills out and then going until she falls asleep. It feels like a statement. It's like pouring rose petals over your body before you go out. I don't know. I don't know. I felt like, you know, she either wanted to be caught or she wanted people to feel bad when they found her, you know?
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
Because I used to do weird things like that. I remember I was really, like I said, suicidal ideology. I was a little obsessed with the idea of my death and the effects it would have on other people, even though I didn't personally want to die. I just wished I could see how my death would affect others. I remember, like, I would do stupid things. Like, my mom would walk into the dining room and I'd be laying there on the floor as though I'd fallen off the chair and I'd have my head at a weird angle. I just wanted to get a reaction to her. And of course, she would be like, she wouldn't say anything, or she'd be like, "What are you doing?" And I'd be like, "You wouldn't react that way if I was really dead. What would you do if I was really dead, Mom?" You know, and she'd just leave the room, you know, because I was just being dramatic. But yeah, I was a little obsessed with the idea of how others would react to finding me that way. And, you know, I honestly, at age 16, thought the most romantic thing that could ever happen was to die in the arms of the man who loved me. And, you know, like, that's the last thing I see is his tears over me, and he'll never love again because I was so amazing. Like, so I don't know. I'm like, is that where Trudy's head is? Like, that idea that her death will have some huge, profound effect on the people who have wronged her or hurt her, and now they'll be sorry. But it still has to suck to feel like that bad that you would do it, that you would act on it, because I don't know what that's like. It's really dark, though, you know, like, the show just keeps surprising me and where it was willing to go.
Yeah.
Like, things were already just heavy enough. We just dealt with the sexual assault storyline a couple episodes ago, and we're still dealing the ramifications of it. And now we have this child who decides to take her life. There's no chance to catch her breath between these moments and these horrible events.
Well, for me, it did feel fitting for Trudy's state of mind.
Oh yeah, definitely. It didn't feel like it came out of nowhere. It was like, oh yeah, we should have seen this coming.
Yeah.
I mean, even the tipping point makes sense. You know, when Bray is telling her, like, she's a responsibility, she's a duty, and it's almost like that's the moment it hits her. He's never gonna love me. That's all I'll ever be to him. That's the only reason he ever took me in, and she can't handle it, you know?
I think Trudy definitely has a lot of feelings that she's wrestling with, and, you know, at that age and with what's going on there, that is an out. That is a very big out.
I can understand why she'd want that, though.
Yeah, as someone who has been there at that age too, like, you know, and that was just having to deal with, like, grades and things and not being liked in school and all of those dramas, like, put a baby on top of that, the world falling apart on that, like, it's a very easy well to go down and to stay down in.
Can you recall your first, like, the first time you saw it, can you recall whether or not you believed that was it for Trudy? Like, she would actually die?
No, but at that age, I'd already seen suicide attempts around me.
Yeah. I had a feeling that maybe because of how the show didn't really hold back on everything, and it would be kind of almost a fitting centerpiece to, like, Zoot's dead, Trudy's now dead.
And here's the little baby.
Yeah, and here's a baby, like, what's going to happen to her kind of thing. So I don't think I put it past them to do that, especially because we were kind of lulled into that thinking with the false sense with Zoot. Like, we didn't think Zoot would actually die, I guess.
I assumed Bray would find her.
Yeah. Oh, I thought for sure Bray would find her. And if she didn't die, I thought that maybe there would be a sort of a something, like, she wasn't fully back to herself, as it often happens. Like, so I saw a lot of different ways this could end for Trudy.
I'm trying to remember. I think I was still shocked that this was the kind of accumulation of everything.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, like, I was surprised that this is what she was going to do. I didn't think it would end in this way. But yeah, I can't remember if I believe that she'd die or not. Yeah, I can't remember that, but it did shock me when I saw that scene.
I think it's all about perspective there, though. I mean, when this aired, I was in a dark place in my life, so to me it made total sense. But yeah, I can see how people who weren't struggling with a lot of things back then would see it differently.
I will say that's a definite interesting way the writers decide to frame Trudy's behavior. Like, we've already argued, we don't know how much of it is actually a hormonal or chemical imbalance, or whether or not it's just her choosing to behave a certain way, and that's a fair argument right there. But you have to admit, there's something very fascinating about the writers showing it from the perspective of everybody else. Sometimes they're sympathetic to her, but often, and not just as often, they'll paint her behavior as completely unacceptable, and you totally feel for the others and how impatient they are dealing with her. Because in truth, that is the case. Even if you're going through a rough time, even if you have a legit reason to be going through a hard time, life doesn't throw you a bone because of it. You're not caught any slack just because you're going through a rough time. You can be going through genuine clinical depression, but that doesn't mean life will suddenly give you a pass because of it. And it's also a really honest portrayal of how these conditions can affect the people around you. You basically become a monster, and it's not because you don't want to be, you're not trying to be, but when they tell you see these in therapy, it's not just the person with depression who's suffering, it's their entire family, it's all the people around them, everyone who has a relationship with them who suffer from it too. And so I do think that's interesting that whatever's going on with Trudy is framed in that way. The kids do get impatient with her, they get angry at her, we the audience get annoyed with her. She's not cut any slack despite, like, whatever it is she's going through. People lose their patience with her. They get fed up with her. And, even after this, people will still be annoyed with her for doing it in the first place. And, that's pretty ballsy to treat any kind of condition with that kind of realistic reaction to it rather than sugarcoating it or, that's how people react,
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you don't know exactly what somebody's going through. You don't know all the details of what's going on in their head. All you know is you're reacting to the way they treat you. You're reacting to the way they act, and that's how most of the kids in the mall are. They're reacting to the way Trudy behaves, and her behavior is awful, so they just don't like her, and they don't have the patience for her. Maybe that's not fair, but it's realistic. Not to mention their kids, too, I thought she could die. I do recall that. At this point, I was like, I think anything's up for grabs. I was like, wow, that's a dark way to end this girl's storyline. Oh my gosh. You guys tortured this poor kid and now you're going to let her die. Oh my word. I did think for a second, they might just go there. The show keeps surprising me. So
I kind of felt it was kind of a fitting swan song for Trudy, though.
Have this tragic character come in and then, but they'd already done it with Zoot. So I was like,
yeah, exactly.
Maybe it is about Brady.
That would have had a big impact on Brady. That would have been
very.
Before you knew it, both of your parents ended their lives, got themselves killed, or whatever. Before you could ever remember them, and so for all I knew, this was her story and not Trudy or Zoot's. So.
And then Bray would have been really stuck with her.
Yeah. So at this point, I was like, oh, it's totally possible. The show keeps surprising me. I don't know where the narrative's going. So I guess that's a tragic end to this character. Like, wow. Okay.
So that brings episode 20 to a close. Thank you once again to the panel, and we will see you next time for episode 21. So until then, bye.
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 Bye.